Hey guys, welcome to an interesting video on Wild Rift. So they're back with a interesting one. It's going to be a Graves updated complete guide for patch 6.1a. We haven't really done Graves in a very long time, and with the changes to Smite and the jungle, it's a pretty good time to cover a jungler. But before we get into it, as you guys can see in the cards above, I've put Graves' basic guide up there for his skills, living order tips and tricks, as well as a couple of combos. But with that said, let's jump into his items, runes, and spells. I'm not sure why I have Snowball there. Probably because I played him in ARAM at some point, but yeah, okay. So first off, let's start off with the items. So you want to start off the game rushing Yomu's Skull Split. Now, for most junglers, you normally don't need to go for Boots first item, and the main reason for that is generally in your first part of the game, you're just full clearing the jungle. You might gank like once or twice, but generally you're clearing the jungle twice with maybe a gank or two in between. So it's better to simply just rush an item, because Boots is really good for laners because they are fighting constantly with the enemy laner. So Boots giving you the very efficient stats will help out a lot in lane, but in the jungle normally it's better to just rush an item. So what item are we rushing on Graves? It's going to be Yomu's Ghostblade. Now Yomu's Ghostblade is pretty much the best first item on Graves, and the main reason for that is you get just very good stats and mobility, right? So you get 55 AD, 15 armor penetration, ability haste, as well as a very helpful momentum passive where when you are at full stacks you get the movement speed. So this is very useful for Graves just to traverse the map and get to where he needs to be. Aside from that, when you start attacking, you also get 25 attack speed for 4 seconds, and when you combine that with the attack speed you get from Fleet Footwork, you can get off your double auto attack very quickly when you go in for ganks or fights, right? Then for the boots, we want to go for the Gluttonous Greaves. Obviously just a pretty default for any AD champion. You get lifesteal as well as AD. Now if you really wanted to, you could also go for a defensive boots here. Then you start going into crit, right? So you first go for a Bloodthirster, obviously the default best, AD crit item, lots of AD, physical vamp, and extra stats when you're high on health. And then here you can go for Mole Reminder Nyx or IE Nyx depending on the situation. I put IE as a default because it just gives you a ton of AD as well as giving you extra crit damage. But if the enemy team is incredibly tanky, then probably you want to be going for the Mole Reminder. Now Mole Reminder of course gives you Armor Pen as well as Grievous Wounds. Now if that wasn't enough, last item you want to go for a tanky option, which normally is going to be Black Cleaver, gives you health, AD, and ability haste as well as the Armor Shred. Now the thing about this Armor Shred is Graves auto attacks launch 4 bullets, and if he crits he launches 6 bullets, so you only need 4 hits to stack Black Cleaver. So autoing once instantly fully stacks Black Cleavers. It's an insane item on Graves. You also get the movement speed, and normally if you manage to somehow reach full build and the game isn't over and you have the ability to sell Yomu's, I would sell Yomu's and get a Navori Quick Blades instead, putting you to 100% crit and giving you extra cooldown reduction, which is very important especially for your E. Then for the runes, we're going to go for Fleet Footwork. Now why Fleet Footwork? Well, basically as I mentioned just now when talking about Yomu's, Fleet Footwork's bonus attack speed of 100% allows you to get off the second auto off, because Graves can only auto twice before having to reload, right? So you can get the second auto off a lot more quickly, allowing you to burst someone down more quickly. Aside from that, just the extra healing and sustain in fights as well as in the jungle is very helpful. The only other two options are Conqueror and First Strike. The issue with Conqueror is that you take quite a little bit of time to stack it up, right? Because you double auto and you Q, that's 4 stacks at most. You still need to reload and attack twice more to fully stack it. So unless you encounter a lot of long fights, which honestly is not very common with Graves because you normally are already dead or you're bursting someone down, so Conqueror is not really that amazing. So if you're bursting someone down, why not go for First Strike? Well, yes, you could go for this, but this is pretty much a useless rune for the first like 8 minutes or so of the game, because you're not really gonna have enough damage to really get a lot from First Strike. So I just felt that overall Fleet is just the best rune to go for, and all of the top players also kind of agree with that. So next up for the runes, normally I'll take Gathering Storm because especially since you're not in lane, you don't auto attack that much, so Brutal is not very helpful. You also have the Jhin problem where you need to reload after every 2 shots, so you don't proc Brutal that often. So I think Gathering Storm is just the best option to go for here. Giant Slayer to counter the tanks. We have Alacrity just to again get off your autos more quickly, and then Overgrowth is amazing for junglers because of course you can stack it very easily. Now you could go for Sudden Impact if you prefer here as well if you want something more aggressive. I personally think Overgrowth is just too good to not take. Then obviously since you're a jungle you take Smite and Flash, and with that said, let's jump into our gameplay now. Okay, so let's take a look at the gameplay itself. But before we do so, of course, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Any questions, queries, or remarks, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Of course, I will be sure to address them. So, of course, we're doing the usual jungle trick here. I'll put in the control ward on the opposite side of the map that we're not doing, just to check for an invade, and then going back and swapping to sweeper, which of course is going to come in very handy when you go for ganks. So, let's talk a little bit about Graves himself as well as the smite changes. So here we're gonna start off on the Krugs. We're gonna clear from bot to top, and here Garen gives us a very nice, I guess you could say a leash, giving him the heart emote for that. So it helps us with our clear just a little bit. Right, so Graves did get a buff. I believe it was two patches ago. I think it was 2 patches ago. But basically he got a buff, right? So his buff was mainly to his Q. This of course helps his jungle clear and his damage in general. He also got a buff on his E, right, where he stacks more grit on his E. So that's also a very huge buff. So overall Graves got a lot stronger because of those buffs, right? So with Graves you always want to start your E, and then you just want to maintain it. So very important here is that when you're transitioning, you always want to have your E up, right? So that way you can dash and maintain the stacks of E. We see those blue circles below me around the inside of the red buff. Those are the stacks of grit that you have. So what you want to do is you start your E and you start stacking your grit, right? That's going to give you a bunch of armor. And then by the time you reach the skull fight, so when you clear 5 camps and then you do skull, which is what I'm going to do here, if the enemy jungler shows up at the skull, you're going to have full stacks of armor. That's like, I think, I forgot what's the number, but I think that's about 40 or so armor, right? And that is huge, right? So if the enemy jungler is AD, like Volibear here, these stacks of armor is gonna basically win me the fight against the Volibear. Now, unfortunately, he has cleared the opposite direction, so that means that he is going to be doing the other side of, and we don't actually encounter him. So here you see I still have my grit stacks, but it's okay to kind of let them fall off now, because the main usage of these grit stacks, aside from mid to late game team fights where you can stack it up, is of course this first skull fight, right? So by having these grit stacks ready and available for the first skull fight, you will be in a very good spot. So here I have no camps left to clear, so I'm just going to show my face up in the top lane and kind of just apply a little bit of pressure for my top side, and then I'm just going to recall. I mean, you could say that was unnecessary, but anyways, Janna had already spotted me out with her ward, so everybody already knows I'm top side. Now here they actually get into a fight, so here I'm actually trying to see if I can help them out. So here I actually get Janna's flash and exhaust, so even though it's not a kill, we still get an advantage for our bot lane in the form of flash and exhaust. And now of course my camps on the bot side are respawning, so now I'm going to recall and then rush over to the bot side to start clearing the bot side again. So this leads me to my next point, which is Graves is in general a power farming jungler, right? A lot like the likes of Mila and Shyvana and things like that. So now is where we kind of talk about the smite changes, right? So obviously smite got 2 major changes. The first is that after your first clear, on every subsequent clear, your damage to jungle camps is reduced. Now, can I feel this change? I actually don't know if I'm delusional, in the sense that I don't play jungle all that much anyways. I don't know if mentally I know the change is there, so I feel like I'm doing less damage, or I'm actually doing less damage. I mean, obviously, objectively speaking, I'm actually doing less damage, but how big is the difference? I'm not sure, because as I said, I don't really play jungle all that much. So yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but I do feel that on the second clear, I do think that I do feel like I'm doing a little bit less damage. But as I said in my patch breakdown, I don't actually think that the damage nerf to jungle camps is the worst part of the nerf, because you will be getting more and more items anyways, which means that you will be doing more damage to camps just naturally, right? As here, we're going for a little bit of a counter gank on this Volibear. I'm just waiting in the wings here. Now here I'm just going in onto the Volibear and his teammates here. it's going to be a 3v3 here. Janna pops the ulti for the healing. And I guess we're kind of fighting over the skull crab. I'm getting zoned away, and my team is kind of backing off, so I'm just not going to go there. So here Janna's put a ward. I need to remove this ward because if not, Volley is going to come in and smite my blue buff, which he might try to do anyway. There he is coming in. I'm just going to smite it. I assume that Volley used smite on the skull, so he shouldn't have smite anymore. So I'm able to secure that blue buff very easily. And yeah, not too much is happening. So here, first objectives are coming up. So since I'm on the reset now, I want to of course go to Herald. I have my Yomu's Spike here, and Volley has also likewise completed his Heartsteel. So I'm hoping that Volley decides to go for Dragon so I can get a free Herald. Obviously Herald is obviously the better objective because you can use it to get plates and snowball. So if Volley comes, it should be fine because Ori is here to help me, but Volley is actually going for Dragon, so it's going to be a Dragon for Herald trait, which is, you know, which I'm perfectly fine with. I think that's a really, really amazing trait for the person who takes the Herald. Of course, in this game, it is Infernal Dragon, which is Infernal Soul, and that is definitely the best soul to have. But here we're going to just pop the Herald and just let it get the plates for us. Now, unfortunately, Volley and Lissandra are now here in the mid lane, which means that Orianna gets zoned off the tower, meaning that I get the solo gold. Now it depends on whether you think this is a good thing or not, because getting all the gold as the jungler, especially a carry jungler like Graves, is a good thing because you do have the gold to get items and carry, but by not sharing the gold with anybody else, it also means that you know, the onus is kind of on you to carry the game. So it depends on how you see it. So now that we have a little bit of downtime again, let me go back to talking about the smite nerfs. So now we've talked about the nerf to the damage to monsters, and I think that that's not the biggest nerf because, as I said, you do get your damage from items, right? So now let's talk about the decrease in gold. So now this is where I think the change is huge, right? So Smite gives you extra gold against jungle, not against, from jungle camps when you clear it. That's the whole point of taking Smite as a jungler. However, now after like 7 minutes or 7:30, you actually get less gold from jungle camps. So if you guys kind of observe what's happening here, that is roughly 3 full clears of the jungle camps, taking into account going for objectives and as well as ganking. Right, speaking of ganking here, I'm coming in for a gank, but it doesn't really work out. So I'm hovering because I can see Lissandra is coming up. Here, unfortunately, I stand a little bit too close and I get CC'd as well, but a lot of damage is being done. I'm trying to finish off the kills, flashing forward. Now I need to reload, finish off the other kills. I got 2 kills here. Now here I'm trying to chase down the Janna, but her shield and her tornado kind of denies me. I decide to chase her all the way because there's no teammate that can help her because Rise is on the other side of the map, Volley is occupied, and the other 2 people are dead. But I think that probably the better move would be to turn around and help against the Volley Bear because I think it's really hard to chase Janna with her movement speed and her Qs to kind of, you know, stop people from chasing. So definitely a little bit of a challenge there. I think probably should have turned around and tried to kill Volley Bear instead. Right, so back to the point, like, at this point we're past 7:30 already. I'm now on my 4th clear, or the 4th respawn of jungle camps. And here we're going down for a gank on Rise, but here's one of the, I guess, strengths of Rise, which is he can just ult out, and I don't have any CC to stop him. Ori and Garen don't end up stopping him in time. So now that we have the debuff to the gold that we're getting from jungle camps, this is a straight up nerf, of course, to farming junglers like Graves and Neela, as I mentioned, because now you're getting less gold from farming jungle camps, and that obviously sucks. So yeah, it's definitely a huge nerf to jungler. I mean, it doesn't matter whether you're a farming or a ganking jungler. Every jungler is going to be farming monsters past minute 7:30, right? So in the end of the day, it's just a huge nerf to the jungle role, which is very, very unfortunate. That, you know, you're not going to be able to get as much gold from the jungler. Now, as an ADC main in general, I'm pretty happy about this because it's a nerf to a role that's not my main role, right? But I guess from time to time I do get autofilled jungler, which is of course the most common autofilled role, because the jungle player base in the Wild Rift I think is the lowest out of all the roles. So I do get autofilled to jungle a decent amount, but of course, as I mentioned, I'm perfectly fine with this nerf as a non-jungle main. But definitely, I can definitely see that is that is a pretty huge nerf. So here there's somehow a 4-man gang on the mid lane, and I'm very close to getting my item, which is BT. So I'm trying to power farm it up, despite the fact that now jungle camps give me less gold. Honestly, if they didn't give me less gold, I would have had IE already. I'm not IE. I would have had BT already. So now I finally have BT. I'm backing. Huge fight is breaking out at the top side though. I'm on the wrong side of the map regardless. I get the BT. I'm trying to run there as fast as I can. I'm not taking the portal because I think that would dissuade the enemy team from going in. So I'm just walking there manually with the Youmuu's movement speed, trying to run after the enemies, but they're all running away already anyway. Now the dragon is coming up. Lissandra is at critical HP, and here I'm just running down Jen. I'm not sure what she is doing here, but she just face checks, I guess, and then she just dies to my ulti. And now we can kind of start the dragon, right? We have a very low Lissandra. We have a support who's now dead. So now we can try to go for the dragon. Volibear is trying to go in though. I'm not sure why he's going in so early, because now we're going to focus the Volibear instead. I'm getting rooted. Volibear ends up going down. I'm just going to smite to secure and flash forward, auto the Lissandra. We get the movement speed as well from the fleet footwork, but we're not going to be able to chase down a Sivir who has a tower as well as her ulti to run away. So we're just going to go back to farming. That's kind of the playstyle of like most farming junglers, right? Like Graves and Nila. You want to go for objectives, you want to go for opportunistic ganks, and then you want to run back and farm all your camps when you've done that, and then after your camps are down, look for plays again. Right, so here, that's exactly what I'm doing. I see Orianna getting chased. I'm trying to help out. Here you can see I'm just blasting the enemy team who's chasing, and now we are the ones that are chasing. Sivir ends up going down here. Unfortunately, I hop over right into Rise. I'm gonna have to run away a little bit. And the Lissandra is now here as well. Unfortunately, my team is stuck behind the walls and they can't really escape. So I'm just gonna go back to farming my jungle. Not much I can really do to help the Garen here. So I'm just gonna go back to guaranteeing my farm. Now Varus and Maokai are here. So now I'm seeing if I can actually help them out. I'm gonna quickly go and clear this wave so that we can push in and get this tower, or dive someone maybe. Yep, there's the dive coming through onto the Rise. Making sure I get at least one auto for at least an assist, and then going to get this tower. And then with Lissandra and Sivir nearby, we've already gotten what we came for, which is a quick kill as well as a tower, so no reason to overstay and stick around. We want to go back to either farming or you want to recall and get an item. So in this case, I believe I'm going to go back to farming now. Now this game is kind of insane in the sense that I'm only backing for full items. Like aside from the Youmuu's, which I did back to get components, I backed for the entire BT without components, and I'm going to try to do the same for IE. Now I don't advise doing this all of the time, because if you have an upcoming huge fight and you can get item components but not the full item, you definitely should go for that. But in this particular game, somehow I've not really gone for huge fights that I really needed to get components for. I've just really been kind of farming it up and then getting the entire item here. So I'm very close to IE now. I'm going to get enough gold from the wolves and quickly back. You can see a fight is kind of starting to break out at the Baron area, which is kind of the same thing when I was backing for BT just now. So I'm kind of paying my team back to not fight. Then I have IE gold, so now I have my entire IE. Fight is breaking out here. I'm rushing there as quickly as I can. Again, the Youmuu's movement speed very, very important for this. Now I'm thinking I can catch Lissandra out here. I ult her. I try to flash dash forward to finish the kill. Unfortunately, all I do is run into a Rise route. And honestly, that's a little bit tilting because you basically used everything, right? You used ult, flash, and everything, but you didn't get the kill. Maybe I could have played that better. Instead of ulting first, which sent me backwards, I could have instead maybe dashed over the wall, flashed onto her, and tried to burst her down. And if she escaped, then I could pop the ulti. So I think maybe I kind of played it a bit wrong because I knew the ulti there was not going to kill her. So definitely a little bit of a mechanical misplay on my part. Could have definitely played that one better. But regardless, we're in a beautiful spot right now. 3 full items completed, 4-0 and 3, with the most goal in the game by a mile, just farming it up as well as getting kills and assists. The best way, of course, to be ahead of the curve. So here, I'm not sure why Garen did not immediately cancel Sivir. Right? I'm assuming he was shopping, but that was a free kill on Sivir. A Garen silence onto Sivir would have killed her there instantly, and now we have the entire enemy team running us down, right? And we're gonna have to hightail it out of there. And what what looked to me like a free pick ends up becoming two deaths on our team and a possible Baron for the enemy team. Now, myself, Varus, and Maokai are trying to contest this Baron 3v5, but you can see the enemies are relatively low, right? So we finished the Volley Bear, the jungler, the most important person. Now I'm trying to back off because we basically stopped the Baron already. We don't need to overcommit 3v4 since Volley is now dead and they can't do the Baron anyways, but I'm just hovering around just in case my team decides to just randomly go in. You can see they're posturing pretty aggressively, so I'm thinking they might want to go in, so I'm just hovering around. I decide to now go back to my farming as the Ice Drake is spawning. Now we've already gotten the Mountain Drake just now, which denies the soul from the enemy teams. I'm not overly concerned about this Ice Dragon. Like, see, look at this, like, there's two people doing Baron here, and then Garen is pinging for the dragon. So I decide to. Initially I was going for the dragon, and then I realized that this is an amazing opportunity to just get Baron. Right, so the enemy has vision on me. So I actually just stopped there for a moment, so it's not so obvious I'm going for the Baron. And by the time I reach there, the Baron is basically gone already. So I'm just going to basically go there to smite and secure it. And this is a very common thing that a lot of teams do, but this requires coordination, right? So if the third dragon is up, Baron will be up. Right, and if the third dragon is not soul, even if it is soul, sometimes it's just better to give the enemy soul and then just get Baron, because Baron is just infinitely more valuable. And in fact, here we're even back to contest the dragon, because the enemy team has not even been able to take it fast enough. So here, I'm just trying to basically just get off damage, and then I'm actually just going to go here and smite the dragon, and I'm just going to chase down the Lysandra. She has nowhere to run, all her spells are down. Then we have Ryze as well as Janna here. We're trying to run after them as well. Autoing the Raptors there for the movement speed from Fleet, and using the ulti to finish off the Ryze. Now Volley is the only one left alive, and we have Baron and a wave in mid. So all Maokai has to do is stop Volley Bear from recalling, just chain CC him, and me and Garen can end the game. So you can see we're just blasting down this mid lane tower, blasting these minions away, and then Volley Bear cannot do anything because Maokai is just on top of him, and he can't defend his base. So myself and Garen, we're gonna end the game just like that. And with that, I'm gonna leave you guys with the stats as usual. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and goodbye.